I am Todd from GoodCleanFunLife.com.
And I am Tony Rousseau, no relation. All sorts of fun tonight, all sorts of stuff going on. Todd got out to Ocean City. I got out nearly to Ocean City. I went to the ocean. I went in the direction of Ocean City. Oh, and also to Pocomoke, which we didn't even talk about. And Todd is like on all the shows now. He's on the air. He's on the internet. He may be in print soon. Who knows? So why don't we start with him? What'd you get up to this week?
It was a Fagers kind of weekend. Started out on Friday night. They had their singer-songwriter event. Nate Clendenin hosts it. It's a showcase. They bring like 5 singer-songwriters and they play in the round. It was actually pretty good this year. I mean, it was good last year, but they started earlier and captured some of that. The crowd that was sticking around or had dinner and that sort of thing. So Fagers Island, Songwriters on the Bay, second annual was good. And then Saturday was the Oyster Fest. They call it the Oyster Garden. So they had 5 different local oyster companies out there shucking, and they had the Oyster Recovery Program that was also there giving out information and, talking about shucking responsibly, which I think is a fun sticker because it says shuck responsibly, and it's really easy to hold the sticker and cover up the H.
Now, what does shucking responsibly entail?
Well, it's recycling. A lot of restaurants are now recycling their oyster shells because it's ridiculous, actually. In fact, talking to the people, and this is the project that I was talking about, when you recycle, so the oyster recovery program goes to restaurants, and if they put their oysters in a separate bin, they will collect them.
And go dump them in the water to make more oysters.
Yes. Yeah. And, I mean, it's something ridiculous how easy it is to make more oysters and how one adult oyster can filter 50 gallons of water in a day, and we're like at 1% of, the historical population of oysters in the Chesapeake Bay. I mean, it's like we've been, we're like right on the edge, and we're like, oh crap, we're on the edge of destroying the Chesapeake Bay. Maybe we should start doing about it and talking about it over some beers and and eating more oysters.
Yeah, and the thing that, better than throwing them out, you could just literally throw them over the side. For the places in Ocean City, even if you're too cheap to dedicate a separate garbage can, literally throw them over the side, and it makes things better. Take them out at the end of your pier, dump them there, makes things better. So that's very cool. They do great work. That's what I thought you were talking about, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah. No, and it's cool because we got approached by a guy at the end of the day, and I was really thinking about it. My brother-in-law, who I've had some differences with, but he has an oyster farm right now, and that's one of the projects that he's been working on. One of Natalie's cousins over in St. Mary's County has the same thing. And actually, one of the cool things. So I love sushi, right?
Right.
One of the things that people love about sushi is that it's the chef. Somebody has to touch the food, and it's almost like a craft. I mean, obviously, any food that you get at any restaurant, a chef is going to be working it. But
no, that's not true. In most restaurants, a chef has prepared the menu and gone home for the evening.
Well, that's true.
They teach the cooks how to cook. They don't chef. But in a sushi restaurant, you can see the guy, he's working on it, and he's the guy. And, you have to have training to even stand near him.
Yes, and it's that personal connection. So every roll you've had has been personally hand done by the sushi chef. So really, certainly not as fancy, but every oyster you eat has been hand shucked by an individual one at a time. And if you kind of, so there's a little bit of intimacy there. You get a dozen oysters. Those dozen oysters there's no mechanized way to shuck an oyster. And so, it's hand cracked and scraped and cleaned and set on a little bit of ice and delivered. And I like that aspect of it, the dwindling things, how good it is. It should almost be illegal to throw away oyster shells because of how good they are. for the environment, you
Yeah.
know. And so that, yeah, I don't know. That's kind of I've been kicking it around a lot. It's kind of the passion project. It's time that the story of the oyster is told, and yeah, I think we might start pulling stuff together to do that.
Well, one of the things I don't know if you get along with her or if you know Kathy Phillips at all.
Oh, sure.
Oh, and I don't know if she's still the coast keeper or not.
Right.
But she can put you in touch with, if you don't already know her, Kim Quillen.
Kim Quillen, maybe.
She's a scientist. She's the kind of science. She's a work from home scientist. She writes science books at her house. That's what she does for her job. Off the top of her head, I guess. And when she's not doing that, she's involved with the oyster program, and they go out and they throw things in the Aswelman Bay to make oysters stick on, and then they go and they check them. So they throw them in the beginning of the summer, and they check them at the end of the summer. And it's a fantastic project. I did a story on it, but nobody ever read anything I wrote. So
Right.
you could that would be a great. That's a great visual. They jump in the water. They check. I'm sorry, my internet wants to update at this very fucking second.
That's awesome.
But they jump in the water. They do all this stuff. It's really worth checking. Kim Quillen, and she lives down in like the nice part of Assateague. You know, when you go straight instead of turning left to go to Assateague, you go straight.
Right. Right.
And
South Point.
Is that what that's called?
Yes.
Right. Well, that's where she lives. Very nice. Her husband's a really good guy too. His name might be Rick, and he does something interesting as well. But they have like a wind turbine. They had the first wind turbine in Worcester County. What else would you like to know about the Quillens? Would you like to know their children's names?
I think I want to just take your story and have that be the basis of my video.
You'd have to find it out at BaysideGazette.com, which there may or may not be anymore, as far as I know. I don't know how things are going there, but I don't know. I know that Ocean City today is undergoing like a redesign or something like that.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Could be gossip. I may have just gossiped by accident.
Well, that's all right.
Because I know people now.
You know, we're in the news business.
I'm hooked up to the news business now. So I'm sorry. So there was that the beer thing as well? Did they have local beer there?
Yeah. So Flying Dog and Eva was there. They had a couple cask beers. The Flying Dog Pearl Necklace on Nitro is their oyster stout. And,
that's a pretty good beer.
And it's really good. And on Nitro, it's even better. And great music from Jordan Sokol and Pressing Strings. Playing on the deck. I think it was the first time that they had played there, but those are some guys out of the Annapolis area that we've had on the Barrel Room sessions who are really talented, and kind of one of those groups that really could make it if the right things fall into place, I think. So yeah, happy to be doing stuff with them, and yeah, we're gonna be doing more stuff with Fagers too. So kind of took a little bit of a lull in the past year, but yeah, we're back, and it's gonna be a Fagers kind of summer.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's good for you guys.
Yeah.
So I just want to tag up real quick on the Pearl Necklace Stout because I did have a very, very good oyster stout this weekend. I went down to Chesapeake Bay Brewing, I think is what it's called, in Crisfield. And so I'll say all the nice things that I can. They were open. They were open, which is something that doesn't happen in Crisfield. They're like the only place that's open to get beer in February in Crisfield. The oyster stout was absolutely fantastic. He said that he hand shucked 150 oysters poisonally to throw them in the boil to give it that musky, and that's what it is like. And I don't know if you noticed this about the Pearl Necklace, but the oysters give it almost like a dirt taste.
We'll say mineralized, minerally taste, and this was as good an oyster stout as I've had.
their other beers are on their way. They need a little work, you know. And we were talking afterwards. I was speaking with the owner. The brewer and his wife run the place. I was speaking with the wife, and I said, you know what? Everyone who drinks craft beer, I was just as honest as I could. Everyone who drinks craft beer knows that new breweries need 2 years.
Yeah.
You need 2 years. I said, you have one very strong beer. The other ones are going to come along, you know. And I was telling Todd beforehand, for those of you listening, they mixed up the beers when they gave me. So they gave me a double IPA, and they said it was their amber. Right. And it's very much like getting a Sprite and ordering a club soda or vice versa. I was like, oh, God, how am I going to tell these people that this is the absolute worst amber I've ever even heard of, let alone tasted? And so then it turned out that actually, no, it was an okay double IPA.
Right, right.
It was closer. I mean, just to be fair, just because my credibility is more important than friendship with people I don't know, their double IPA was more of a regular IPA. It wasn't. I mean, this is a tough world for IPAs, and I mean, it's an awesome world for IPAs. But when you have Lot 6, you have 90-minute, you have 120-minute. Yeah. You know, you gotta. A double IPA is you're kind of saying something, and
yeah, it's got to reach in your mouth and you know and pull your tonsils out. You know,
the fact that I thought it might be a bad amber tells you how double IPA it was. You know, right. I'm like, oh, this is very bitter for an amber. You know, yeah. If it were a double IPA, I would have been like, this is the double IPA. This is not the amber. You know, about halfway through, I'm like, I think you mixed them up. So there was that. But it was a really cool place, and what was very cool was there were actually 2 people who came in, you know, and they were like, they were new in town, but they had a condo around the corner, and it was like a younger couple, and I'm like, wow, I wonder what you're doing in Chrisfield. You know, they weren't younger, but they were, I mean, in their late 30s, early 40s.
Yeah.
They weren't 100, you know.
Right.
For being year-round people, and they just bought a condo in Chrisfield out on the point or whatever, which they're giving away now after Sandy. And when I say giving away, the kind of people that I was talking to were talking about how cheap the $500,000 condos were. So I don't know what that means. I don't know if they were like they used to be $10 million condos, or if 500 like when $500,000 is never going to be a good buy for me because it's not ever something I can afford ever.
Right. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where it is. I mean,
right. There's no price where I'm like, oh, $500,000. That's cheap because I don't have it, and I'm not going to have it. You know. But it was a great place. It was very homey. They had plenty to offer, and it's one of these places where they do the food and the beer is part of what they do. He was talking about they just started distributing. I worry a little bit about them because, like I said, 3 of their 4 beers aren't really ready to go out yet.
Right.
And this is the time when, now that people are getting a little bit more educated, you don't want to make a mistake with distributing. You know, if they had asked me, and they didn't. They did, but they asked me too late. I said I would that oyster stout. You know, make the oyster stout, sell the oyster stout, develop everything else in house until it's excellent, because it's okay. There's no bad beers. All of their beers were okay and good, but they weren't world class. Like the oyster stout was such a good beer.
Now was it in Chrisfield or on your way to Chrisfield that you saw the naked almost?
Oh no! This was for the next edition of Why Are You Naked? I was at the YMCA yesterday, and I had gone into the steam room with my water, and I didn't happen to be naked. And the reason I point this out is that they've kind of gotten. They put up a sign that said, "Don't go in the steam room naked, please," or at least wrap a towel around yourself. Now, I wouldn't sit in the steam room naked. I would usually kind of stand there and stretch, and it's gross. You don't want to hear. But but I go in there in my underwear and I stretch and I do, you know, and I relax, and I had realized that I left something two things happened. Thing number one, I dropped my towel, so I washed my towel with soap. My washcloth. I washed my washcloth with soap that I usually use to wipe my face off with. And I hadn't gotten all the soap off. And so when I wiped my face, I got some soap in my eyes. I'm like, fuck, I got soap in my eyes. So I went out to get the soap out of my eyes. I'm like, okay, you know what? I'll just hit the shower real quick, rinse this cloth out, get back in. I get to the shower, and there's this Chinese man naked and jumping up and down.
Jumping up and down.
And he's like, you have to come, you have to see, you have to come, you have to see. So I go around the corner, and then there's an Indian guy lying flat on his back, bleeding from his head, his eyes, boom, like saucers. Spoilers, he didn't die, but I was sure he was dead. I'm like, oh, there's no need to panic because this guy's fucking dead. But I'm like, you know what? Let's play it like he's not dead because, you know, what if we make a big deal and save his life? So in my underwear, pink, eyes flaming red, I go running out into the pool area screaming for help because I'm the only one in the locker room who's even got a thread of clothing on. So I go out and I'm like, help, 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 help. There's a guy that fell down. There's a guy that fell down. He's bleeding from his head. I think he might be dead. Help, help. And I don't know how stoned the lifeguard was, but I'd say pretty, because he looked at me like, what are you doing? And true, I'm huge and naked, and I'm wearing my underpants and pink, like pink-bellied and pink-faced, and my eyes are squinty because I've got soap all over. I've got, like, soap on my... And so he's like looking around like, me? I'm like, you're the one with the fucking red shirt. You've got the red shirt. I've got the dead guy. Let's do this, right? So he gets the other lifeguard, and then he goes inside, and I follow him. And by then, if you're ever going to have a seizure at the YMCA and crack your head open, you want to do it while a doctor is back in the locker room because he forgot something.
Mm. Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Is there a doctor in the house?
Well, yes, I'm a doctor. And so so by the time I get back, there's a doctor, and he's trying to get them picked up. They send me back out. Now, to get the backboard that they keep by the... I'm still the only one dressed except for the doctor, but I'm not going to say, no, you go on the errand. I'll stay here and take his fucking heart rate or whatever he was doing. So back out into the pool, still pink, still in my underpants, still yelling like a maniac. And there's this little girl there. Actually, she's not little. She's probably in her 20s, but you know me. I'm an old man. And I'm like, I'm sorry. The Chinese guy comes out and he says, we need it. We need it. And I'm like, what? He's like, we need it. We need it. Now, the guy's English probably isn't great when he's not panicking, but he was in the shower with the guy when he took this header. Right? So he's even more freaked out than I, and we are both sure this guy is dead or dying. Right? So if his English skills weren't great before he saw this guy crack his head open, they're gone now. He's like, we need it, and I'm like, the yellow thing, and I got soap in my eyes still, right? The yellow thing, you want the yellow thing? He's like, we need it, the yellow, yes, the yellow, we need it. And so the girl, she takes off. I take off after her because I'm not thinking very clearly. It doesn't occur to me until we almost get to the yellow thing that, well, yeah, she can pick that up and carry it all by herself. Why the fuck are you following her? What are you going to do? So she picks it up, turns around, runs past me. I turn on my heel, and now pink-bellied, running back after her. We get to the locker room, and my chasing her around paid off because the Chinese guy's looking at her like, what are you going to do? She's like, is everybody still naked in there? And I'm like, yeah, everyone's still naked in there. Because she's like the official from the YMCA, and she's like, you know, if two of you would put on pants, I could go in and help. So I bring the yellow thing in. I check to see that everyone's wearing pants. I come back, I get the girl, yeah, they're wearing pants. And then I got to, by that time, the guy's sitting up, and he's like, oh, no, I don't want to go to the hospital. I'm like, dude, I just saw you die. You know, but now I look like a moron running around in my underpants saying, he's dying.
Oh, man.
But it turned out he just spent too much time in the sauna and got a little lightheaded. But he did. There was blood everywhere. Like, I washed all the blood. There was. Head wounds bleed. Blah blah blah.
Right. And in the shower, you add a little water, and it's.
Yeah. Still, he should have gone to the doctor. I was a little upset that he didn't go to the doctor, both because it was a little extra humiliating for me. He's like, I don't know what's the matter with you guys, and also that I didn't want anything bad to happen to him.
Right.
And I also gave him my water bottle, and
you want it back?
I have it back today,
okay.
But he was still with like the EMTs and stuff, and I decided, you know what, I don't need to shower. I'll shower when I get home. So I went to the sink and I just threw water all over myself because there's still blood in the thing. So I threw water over myself, and I'm like, you know what, I'm just gonna get dressed and go home.
Yeah.
And so I get dressed, and I'm like, well, do I say, hey, give me my fucking water bottle? You're not dead. So I'm like, you know what, I'm just gonna go. And yeah, right, yeah. But I'm just gonna go and trust that he's gonna either. It's a $12 water bottle. I don't really care that much. But when I got back to the YMCA today, sure enough, my water bottle was there and the lost and found waiting for me.
There you go.
And that was my story.
Your stories make me never want to go to the YMCA. I'm
missing out. These stories could be yours.
I'm fairly certain that that's one place that I now no longer want to visit for you being there.
Well, you don't want to run into me there because I'm a mess. I'm a mess when there's nobody dying. So when people are dying.
So do you think the Asian guy has a podcast that he's telling the same story to?
He has told that story. I've told that story to almost everyone I've seen since. So has he, and he knows more people because he's Chinese. So, statistically.
Yeah, it's factual.
But we're like secret friends now. We're like, we had like post-traumatic stress disorder together. So I'm like, all right, man, I'll see you. He's like, all right, man, I'll see you. And so I feel like I usually just see him. He's like one of those extras in your life. The term my wife likes to use. Yeah. So I see him. He's like the Sunday crowd guy. He's one of the. So I see him on Sundays. Yeah. So I'll see him next Sunday, and I'll check in, say how you doing. See any other Indian guys take headers in the. It was very multinational. It was all the continents were represented, all the nationalities anyway.
It's a good lesson when everybody is stripped down to nothing and all you have is an Indian guy passed out in the shower. That's where the United Nations come together.
Yeah. It was just. I'm very glad he's not dead, but this story would be pretty much the same if he did die in the end, because I was sure he was dead. The only thing that would have been different is I would have been like saying that I felt humiliated that he wasn't dead or even very much hurt.
Or you would have gotten your water bottle back soon.
I would have got my water bottle for sure. And the thing, all right, so yes, maybe I was a little Chicken Little-y, but everybody else was just like standing around in their towels, just staring at this guy. So, eventually they found their towels, right? And they were just staring at this guy, and the doctor's like, I need some water. I'm like, none of you fucking guys have a water bottle? We're here this is a gym. We all drink water. We're like, right.
Right.
So I got my water bottle, and I'm like, here, it's covered in soap, but there's no soap on the inside, just on the outside, and that's for me, and that's your patient's fault for taking a header while I had soap in my eyes.
There you go. Wow. So that was an exciting post-Valentine's story for you.
Yes.
For you.
It was, and the night before we had Kelly and I went out and got sushi. We tried to go to the high-end sushi restaurant where you needed reservations, and that's the first time that's happened to me ever in Salisbury.
Okay.
Where they're like, do you have reservations? And I'm like, did I leave Salisbury and not notice? No, I don't fucking have reservations. They're like, oh, sorry, only reservations tonight. But it's because it was a higher-end place, and I thought that was very cool that reservations were required. Again, as long as we were to talk about how I humiliated myself, I told my wife as we were leaving, I'm like, you know what? If I was a little bit richer and a little bit classier, I would have had a $50 bill in my pocket. I would have put it in her hand and said, take a look. I think it's under Tony Russo. Yeah. But I didn't have $50, so...
So that didn't happen.
We just had to slog back out in the rain and go to the lower end. around the corner. Now, you said that you don't make a big deal about Valentine's Day.
Well, it's funny because actually, while on the radio, they had a great question. It's like, put in order what you would prefer for Valentine's Day, and the three choices or the three things that you had to put in order was a nice dinner, chocolates, and flowers. And my response was a nice dinner, chocolates, and we don't do flowers.
No.
And I've never done flowers, and I think it goes along with the whole Valentine's thing in general. Is saying if you need to be reminded on one day to say how much you appreciate or love somebody, you're kind of missing the point. And then to feel the pressure. Not just the pressure that a significant other might put on you, but societal pressure and pressure you put on yourself if you're disappointed, if something doesn't happen. It's just a load of crap. And I think the best thing that I've seen a small movement towards is people talking about instead of doing Valentine's Day, let's have a second Halloween, and that makes perfect sense to me, because if you think about it,
I was building up my vehement disagreement, and you could have picked, and you could have said second Thanksgiving. I would have told you to go fuck yourself. You said second Thanksgiving, second Halloween. I'm like, well, maybe we should consider this.
Oh, maybe. Well, because it's still a holiday where you can get together and have fun. And I actually, I'm thinking about taking it one step further. The knock on Halloween of October 31st is, you have the sexy cop outfit. You have, like all of this. Well, let's save all of that for February, and then we do scary Halloween.
And then love Halloween.
And then we do, love Halloween.
Oh, I tell you what, I was prepared not to be convinced, but if I'm not convinced. Let me put it that way. Like I'm not going to donate to the cause, but I will support it. Like.
Right. You're gonna share it and see what your circle of influence thinks.
Yeah, I could get behind love Halloween. Except that there is all right, now it all just came apart in my head. We have to work on it, okay. All right, because there is one of the things that I don't like about the sexy costumes is I don't. It's the lascivious side. We don't need a hey, let's objectify women day.
Right.
And I don't want to wear a sexy Halloween costume.
Halloween.
I'm as naked as I'm going to get in front of people on Sunday.
Yeah.
For probably the next decade or so. So that's a tough sell.
Yeah.
But it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Halloween. I do celebrate Valentine's Day and I enjoy it, and I was wondering about this, I was pretty sure that you weren't huge into Valentine's Day. And so this is the thing. I celebrate all the stupid holidays, and I feel like it would be disingenuous for me to say, oh well, Christmas makes perfect sense, but Halloween is, but Valentine's Day is dumb and manufactured. I've never been a flower giver though. It's not my thing. My wife and I actually talked about that, and I mean she gets a decent piece of jewelry. She gets like on the impressiveness range, it's right up there with birthday and Christmas. It's usually a pretty decent, pretty not expensive, just a well thought out piece of jewelry, and then a nice dinner, and it's a day that we set aside for ourselves because we have permission,
right?
More than because we're expected to. It's like, you know what, we. And I don't have to tell you this because you guys do the same thing. I mean, you spend a lot of money and time on your kids. You spend a lot of money and your time on your kids. You spend only day, except for your wife's birthday or your wife's birthday week, depending upon who you're married to,
Right.
that you can legitimately say, you know what, this is for us and not for the kids. This is for not the kids. And of course, the kids still get chocolate, and we still make a big deal.
Yeah.
But we're going out. You can't come.
Yeah.
You know, we're setting this time aside for ourselves because we need to remember that we're grown-ups in love, not just child-rearing machines.
Yes. Yes.
And that is the aspect of Valentine's Day that I appreciate. And it could be my parenting style because I'm always feeling like I need to spend more effort, more time. Like, when you're broke, I guess, again, I don't have to tell you this a lot, but when you're broke, you're like, well, you know what, I can't give you stuff, so I'm going to at least spend a lot of time with you, to your children. Right? And Valentine's Day is the one day where I give myself permission to say, you know what, this is about my wife and my romantic life as a grown-up being.
Yeah.
And that's why I appreciate and like celebrating Valentine's Day. But I'm not against Halloween, and I don't want any of what I said to detract from the Halloween premise because there's something there. As long as I don't have to walk around in a Speedo, like I said, once and done.
Well, especially
run around like a pink maniac in my underpants once every century. That's Sunday just passed.
Right. Well, I think well, first of all, we're always broke, so the only thing that we celebrate really in terms of gift exchange is birthdays, like our individual birthdays. We also have the advantage in that because of what we do, it involves a lot of adult time, out. So we
work together.
Yeah,
we have to work together at an awesome job.
Yes, and so we exercise that muscle quite a bit. And then the other thing is in regard to the flowers is it all kind of came out of the fact that or the situation that when Natalie was in 12th grade, she was dating a dude, some high school dude, who got her 12 dozen roses for prom. And first of all, that's just absurd, and it's not anything that I'm ever gonna, like, all right, you peaked out at that. That's the best you're gonna get in terms of flowers, whether you say it or think it or or even consider it. So.
Have I told you my Vinny Blue Eyes story?
No. Vinny Blue Eyes?
Was your wife's boyfriend's name Vinny Blue Eyes?
No.
Was he a low-level scumbag?
Well, the level of his scumbagness, I'm not so certain of. But
my father introduced me to Vinny Blue Eyes maybe a decade or so ago, maybe a little bit more at this point. Vinny Blue Eyes lost his job at the post office for threatening to kill his boss, and he was surprised that they fired him. He said, "Well, I wouldn't really kill him." So Vinny Blue Eyes got a part-time job delivering roses on Valentine's Day. He took one of every dozen, saying, "Who counts?" And then gave his girlfriend like 10 dozen roses.
Oh, you have told me this story before.
And I thought I had only because when I was at the Bayside Gazette, Mary got a dozen roses, and I counted them, and there were 11, and I can't not count roses ever again anymore. I always count the roses, and there are 11 every now and again, so it's a thing.
That's funny. That is funny.
So he may have presented her with a dozen roses, but maybe he spent all morning stealing one rose from 144 different.
It could be. It could be.
All right. Well, let's wrap this up. We ran a little long today.
Hey, how about that?
I told you my naked dead guy story is going to take a long time to tell. Lots of other stuff going on. What do you got coming up this weekend? You got anything big?
It's actually a big weekend for us. We're headed up to Baltimore for the Pirate Rob thing. It's now called.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the Frozen Harbor Music Festival. There's like 70. No, there's like 100 acts that are playing over 3 days now, and the Power Plant and Ram's Head Live are all up there, Baltimore. It'll be a really good time. We're actually going to be filming some. We've been hired by one band to do a live music performance, so we're going to be doing that, and yeah, it's going to be a good time. That will be our little staycation, because we're going to get a hotel room, and a hotel room for 2 nights, not just one night.
Wow. You know you're in the money when you can tack on that second night.
The second night, it makes such a big difference,
Anybody
hotel
can
room.
pick up $169, but $400, you're in.
Yes. So that will be a fun weekend. So that's what we have going on.
I hope to. I haven't chosen the topic of my blog. I'm thinking I'd like to write about third wave because we have Women's Brewing Month coming up.
Oh.
And off the air, I think maybe we can talk about maybe collaborating in some way on Women's Brewing Month because that's in March.
Okay.
And there's a Varmint Fest in my future. I don't know if you're interested, but I feel like this year I'm going to go to Dayton's and try their varmint and write about their varmint. And I might do one of my own. I'm thinking that maybe on Lent, whenever Lent ends, Good Friday, I'm thinking of having Rousseau Varmint Fest on Good Friday.
That would be amazing.
That's a real possibility. That could happen.
Yeah.
So keep your calendars clear. But other than that, I got nothing else. How about you?
I got nothing.
All right. Well, may Todd give you the sense to live in a small town.
We'll see you next week at Happy Hour.